Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Brad Bookout, and this is the Delaware County Redevelopment Commission meeting for January 14th, 2021. The time is now approximately 9:02 a.m. This is an electronic held Zoom meeting. I am also in person at the Innovation Connector, 1208 West White River Boulevard, for anyone wishing to attend in person. I'm going to start the meeting off with the roll call at this time, starting with Bryce Conyers.
Here.
Angie Moyer.
Here.
Eugene Whitehead.
Here.
Carrie Wiggerly.
Here.
Commissioner James King.
Here.
And Paul Garrison. No, Paul Garrison is out. Okay, we're going to move to election of officers on the agenda. I'm going to open up the floor for nominations for president, vice president, and secretary.
I'll nominate James King for president.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion for James King to be president. All in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Brad, you need to do your roll call votes with this meeting.
Okay, thank you, Joe. We're going to do roll call vote. So start with Bryce Conyers.
Yes.
Angie
Yes.
Moyer.
Yes.
Eugene Whitehead.
Yes.
Carrie Wiggerly.
Yes.
James King.
Yes.
That was a reluctant yes,
It's
James.
time for me to take it back.
All right,
Thanks, everybody.
congratulations, James. I'll turn the meeting over to you.
All right. Next, we need for open up for vice president. Do we have any nominations?
Nominate Angie Moyer. Second.
Have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second for Angie Moyer. I'd like to close nominations. Can I get a motion and a second to close nominations?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to close. Brad, can you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Angie Moyer.
Yes.
Eugene Whitehead.
Yes.
Carrie Wiggerly.
Yes.
James King.
Yes.
Bryce Conyers.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Now we just need a motion for Angie Moyer for vice president. We have to close the motions, and then we have to vote for her again.
Okay, I'm going to call the roll again. Eugene Whitehead.
Yes.
Carrie Wiggerly.
Yes.
James King.
Yes.
Bryce Conyers.
Yes.
Angie Moyer.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Now I'd like to open up for secretary
I'll
of the
nominate
redevelopment.
Bryce Conyers.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have anybody else for nominations? If not,
Motion
I'll
to
enter.
close nominations.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Brad, can you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. James King.
Yes.
Bryce Conyers.
Yes.
Angie Moyer.
Yes.
Eugene Whitehead.
Yes.
Carrie Wiggerly.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Do we need to, have we voted for Bryce for the second time? Or we just do the closing of the nominations?
Yes, I understand that. Yeah. Would you like me to call the roll again for the,
Yes.
so we have it twice,
Yes.
James? Okay. Bryce Conyers.
Yes.
Angie Moyer.
Yes.
Eugene Whitehead.
Yes.
Carrie Wiggerly.
Yes.
James King.
Yes.
Motion carried for Bryce Conyers, secretary.
Congratulations, guys. Next, we'll move on to approval of minutes for the 11th of 2020.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can you call the roll, Brad, please?
Yes, sir. Bryce Conyers,
Yes.
Angie Moyer,
Yes.
Eugene Whitehead,
Yes. Yes.
Gary Wiggerly, James King.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carried for the minutes.
Next, we have a presentation on broadband proposal from the East Central Indiana Regional Planning District. Mr. Walters?
Thank you, Mr. President, Commission. The proposal you have in front of you is for a Delaware County broadband readiness study. A little bit of background before I turn it over to Katie Clark from Taylor Sifkin Williams Design Group about the analysis. A little bit about ECI. We've been working for 2 years on this with Dr. Giraldo from Purdue University and with Scott Rudd out of the Lieutenant Governor's office. We all know about COVID, but even before COVID, online and rural broadband was an issue for kids, school, EMS, 911, and now even with the pandemic, it's become even more of an opportunity. The question has always been, and where I found the trouble is bringing everything together, be it the COFA money for the federal providers, for the federal side of it, for the providers, or the federal dollars and the state dollars to help counties and municipalities moving forward. The thing that I found out that is key to all of these grants is an analysis of the area and a plan moving forward with commitment from partners from municipalities, governments, and then going after the state and federal grants. So that's the proposal you see in front of you. With that, I have Katie Clark here from Taylor Sifkin Williams, and I'd like to turn it over to her to explain the proposal you have in front of you.
Hey, thanks, Bill. Let's see, I'm gonna share my screen and hopefully all the tech works out this morning. There we go. Yeah, I asked Bill just for a few minutes to introduce ourselves, myself and Bart, who I think is also on the phone, and just walk through our process just a little bit and take any questions that you might have. So really want to start just kind of with our team and who we are. As Bill said, my name is Katie Clark. I'm a landscape architect, but also a project manager at Taylor Sifkin Williams Design Group. And I believe I saw on the line is also Bart Bresch, who's the president and owner of Yates Engineering.
Yeah, good morning, Katie. I'm here.
Okay, perfect. I'll take a second just to introduce who Taylor Sifkin Williams Design Group is, and then I'll turn it over to Bart really quickly. If you're not familiar with our firm, we are a urban design and community planning firm. We have offices in Indianapolis and Louisville. And really the bulk of our work is working with communities of all shapes and sizes, rural, urban, kind of anything in the mix. And really we just work with them to think strategically about where they want to be in the future, what challenges they need to overcome. And we work directly with them to kind of leverage the great assets they have and build tools to help them in the future. So we really pride ourselves on listening and learning and then taking all of that under advisement and creating a very action-oriented plan. So at the end of the day and at the end of any process we're involved with, you have a document that kind of paves your path forward and tells you kind of exactly what you need to do and gives you the tools to be able to move that information forward. And Bart, I'll let you introduce your team.
Yes, so Yates Engineering Services, we've been around for 11 years. There's about 45 employees. We're a boots on the ground professional engineering fiber design firm. That's all we do. We don't do construction, but we do a lot of resident engineering on projects. So we design it, we build the work prints for it, and then we do the quality assurance, inspection, and construction management of those projects. Most of our clients are either telephone companies, large power companies, or municipalities, just basically anyone who can afford to build a fiber network, or anyone who has to leverage state or federal dollars to get those things built. So we've gotten into a lot of consulting, and we basically do the broadband piece of that. So we go to the counties, drive the roads, we determine the best placement of new fiber, whether it's buried, plowed or bored, or on existing structure like telephone or power poles. And we're able to use our design experience to tell you exactly how much that's going to cost, both in labor and materials. And, both of those are pretty volatile, especially in this really high demand time. So we've had the pleasure of working in Delaware County. We put in fiber to about 39 cell towers over the past few years, and also worked with Zail Bandwidth as they built through Delaware County. So we're familiar with some of the nuances of permitting and how folks own to the center of the road in rural Delaware County. So we know how to kind of deal with those situations as well. But we've really had, it's been nice to work with urban planners such as TSW to do all of the sort of survey intelligence, and then we fill in with all the broadband experience.
Thanks, Bart. So probably the way Yates Engineering and TSW came together was about maybe 2.5 years ago, when the state of Indiana put a much greater emphasis on rural broadband and getting access to these areas that maybe don't have acceptable access now. And that was through Okra offering a pilot program, giving funds to communities to study this. So this is when kind of we thought outside the box and took our kind of expertise in community planning and strategic thinking and paired it with the technical expertise at Yates Engineering. Because what we did find, and even when you think about broadband, which is a very specific utility infrastructure, thinking about how to improve it takes a lot of information from the community, a lot of partnerships, kind of all the great things community planners bring, and then pairs it with the technical expertise. So we've had the opportunity, as Bart said, to work through 4 different projects over the last 2 years. And 2 of these communities, Dale and then the English Marengo Milltown, both just received funding through the Next Level grants in this latest round. So their planning work did turn into real money. And a lot of the work through that process, I think, strengthened those applications. So just taking a quick look at the process that's in the proposal we shared, it breaks out into 3 phases that allow us to learn a lot about what's available, what we could leverage moving forward, and explore different ideas and different kind of deployment or implementation options. So in this first phase, it is kind of focused on the existing condition, learning about who's living there, what types of businesses are there, learning what areas might be ripe for development, that we want to make sure the internet, the infrastructure can be there, and then taking a close look at what providers you have now and try to loop them into the conversation so they can be an active participant in implementation. We do like to do these projects with a steering committee, a small group of people to help inform our process and help guide us in decision making. And during this phase, we'll also work to get out a community survey to kind of poll those residents and businesses that may be in need of increased access. The second phase is all about thinking how we can use all that great existing condition information, thinking about where you want to be in the future, if you have specific, and starting to round out what kind of the improvement plan for broadband will look like. So this is where Bart gets in and starts to think about his options, where we can put things, how we can get access to areas. Again, with the engagement and input, plan 2 committee meetings throughout this process to take information, really kind of get input as we're going through, so we're not kind of just checking in with you at the end. We'll have kind of those conversations throughout our process. And then in this third phase is where it all comes together. All the great information and ideas really turn into that action plan that I talked about that gives you the next steps that you need to move forward with. And we can also help you work through the process of becoming a broadband readiness community through the state. It's a simple kind of application plan, but through this process, we'll be able to get kind of all the key pieces of information you need. And it's just kind of that certification kind of signals to providers and other interested parties that you're ready to go. You've kind of made it as easy as possible for them to be involved. And we'll help you get through that process pretty easily. So we think this process is going to be really great for you, and we're excited to help. I think our process allows you to dream big about where you want to be, engage with the people that maybe need to be involved, or maybe find new people that can be involved in the implementation, and really give you those tools you need to be able to move forward. So with that, I think Bart or I are happy to take any questions that you may have on our team, our expertise, or our process. Thank you so much for having us this morning. We're excited to partner with you.
Thank you. Does any of the board members have any questions or comments? Mr. Walters, I'll give it back to you to discuss any further.
No, as you can see, this is pretty comprehensive. Broadband is very, like I said earlier, is very difficult. It is tough in some communities. Taylor Seafer Williams worked with the state, so they're very familiar with what the state is looking for. I think moving forward that this benefits the region as a whole, all of the county. And as far as economic development is always the key issue is a lot talk, but now we're talking schools, be it first, post, secondary, even medicine. I think it is vital for the area that we lead in the region of being a broadband ready and have a plan for the future going forward. I hope you and the commission see it the same way. I would ask at this time that you please take it under consideration and that this would come out of all the TIFs in the area from the Redevelopment Commission because it will benefit the entire county.
Mr. Rare, have you been able to view this?
I'm sorry, James, you cut out on me.
Mr. Retz, have you been able to view this for us?
Are you talking to me?
Joe Retz.
Oh, Rats. Okay.
Yeah, I've gone through the letter that was moved to the agenda, and it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move to approve the agreement.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion from the board? If not, Brad, could you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Angie Moyer,
Yes.
Eugene Whitehead,
Yes.
Carrie Wiggerly,
Yes.
James King,
Yes.
Bryce Conyers.
Yes.
Motion carried. Could I please get Mr. Or could I get Bart's last name, please, for the purposes of the minutes?
Yeah, it's Bretsch, and it's spelled Bretsch. And I'm the president and owner of Yates Engineering.
When can we anticipate the study to be completed?
Okay, thank you.
The study, Angie, is an 8 to 10 month program. One of the things I didn't get to add in there, I apologize. Not only with this now, we have been awarded an AmeriServe Fellows for digital from Purdue University, also from February to November. This will give us somebody locally we will put solely with this project. And if this commission would like on the steering committee, be more than happy to have one of your members as on the steering committee, as long as some of the other municipalities.
Thank you.
If I could just say, I'm excited about this. I know the whole school community in Delaware County will be as well. I think this is a great thing to pursue. I'm excited that the Redevelopment Commission's looking at it. I think you'll find a lot of support from the K-12 people for sure. A lot of cooperation. Many of them have done surveys in the past year because we've depended so much on distance learning. So there's some information that has been gathered that may be helpful.
Thank you, Paul.
Do we have anything else? If not, we'll move to item number 5 on the agenda, which is Mondale sampling and analyst plan for the industrial center. Mr. Luke Johnstone and Mr. John Mondale.
James, let me step in and introduce these two gentlemen. They are the firm that has completed the Phase 1 environmental analysis at the Industrial Center. And
Yeah.
I've asked them to give us just a couple minute overview of the phase 2 proposed sampling and analysis plan for the area. At your direction, James, we did share this proposal with the county's environmental council group, and they did have some additional items that they did include in it to be completed, and they are supportive of it. So with that, I'll turn it over to either John or Luke. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for allowing us to be here to present or share a little bit more about this proposal. And really, this is just it's a continuation of what we started last year with the phase 1 type project, where we did an overview of the area of the Muncie Industrial Center, as we're really trying to assess what environmental concerns are there, if any, and and the degree of concern that they are for the community. So in our phase 1 review last year, we went through the whole area and went through, it was a pretty relatively comprehensive, looked through all the properties and identified, we ended up identifying around 35 properties that, could be involved, could be linked to some sort of contaminant. And what we saw was that with such a large area, a lot of there were quite a few data gaps in between the properties. There had been a lot of investigations on there had been a lot of different investigations on individual properties, but there was a lot of data gaps when you hit the property line. That's oftentimes where the investigation had ended. So there's a lot of areas that we feel require further investigation, and that's really what we're trying to hit on in this phase 2 proposal. And I can just kind of go through what we've done is we've kind of prioritized what we felt were the most pressing concerns or potential areas that could have the highest potential for a contaminant that, if present, could be a concern to the community. And so what we've done, if we here, I can share my screen here real quick. Let's see here. All right. So, all right, yeah. So we kind of listed in our initial phase 1 report, we separated different sampling and analysis plans that you could do, and we prioritized those sampling and analysis plans. So that's what the SAP-A, SAP sampling and analysis plan, C, E, G, and those were our top priorities. And so SAP-A and C, those are our first two, and in short, that all has to do with it's kind of surrounding the downgrading areas of the Exide property and the former Delco property in the southwest portion of the Muncie, and it surrounds, so it's the down gradient of the site, so where they have discharged, and that you just kind of follow those drainage ditches, and they all kind of lead to this southwest property. So we're really focusing on that property, and we hope to let me get back to the proposal here. We hope to use some geophysics and some tools to try to identify hotspots where we can focus on more specific sampling, some near surface sampling. So that's the first two sampling and analysis plans, just focusing on that southwest area and some historic discharges into the area. And then sampling plan E, that's more related to the historic deposition or release of heavy metals in the region. So what we're doing there is we're focusing on the neighborhoods in particular. And over the past decades, 4 or 5 decades, there's been industries in these areas that have released to some degree an amount of heavy metals, and over time those can settle and deposit in the near surface soils in the area, and that could be a concern in the neighborhoods if you have kids playing out there. So we hope to also get out there and do some near surface sampling in the community out there to identify if there's any lingering problems from the historic atmospheric deposition.
Yeah, those are
and then lastly,
those are air deposits, just to clarify.
Yeah, air deposits. Yeah, thanks for clarifying. And then lastly, sampling plan G, we hope to do a series of groundwater grab samples, and that's to really again, we're focusing on the neighborhoods, the community in the area, and on the edges. Let me pull up here. This is a good example. Yeah, we're focusing on the edges of the industrial center, and we plan to do a series of groundwater grab samples to identify if there's any, because we know there are groundwater plumes in the area, and the groundwater is all moving that way. You know, there might be some localized flow this way. So we would just want to kind of take some samples along the fence line to make sure that there's not any unidentified contaminants moving in that direction, because we know there are some plumes within the industrial center. One thing I forgot to mention, when we're focusing down in the southwest area, these homes here and these homes here are on groundwater private wells. So we do plan to conduct some private well sampling just to make sure that they're not drinking, that they don't have any unknown contaminants in their drinking water. And then, so that's an overview of what we have proposed. Let me get back to the proposal there. And then of course, we'll prepare a summary report, and we can present our findings after we have gathered all the data and done the analysis. If anyone had, John, if you have anything else to add, feel free to hop in, but otherwise we can take your questions. And again, we appreciate this opportunity to present this proposal and be working with you in our efforts to find, make sure that we're protecting the health of the community. And so that's all.
I would say, Luke, all this work is going to be taking place during the first quarter of 2021. So be a series of mobilizations and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Does anybody have any questions concerning phase 2? Can we get a motion and a second so we can go ahead and move forward with phase 2?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. We don't have any more further discussion. Brad, can you call the roll, please?
Yes. Eugene Whitehead,
Yes.
Carrie Wiggerly,
Yes.
James King,
Yes.
Bryce Conyers,
Yes.
Angie Moyer.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Luke and John. Appreciate all the work that you guys are going to put forward out there in the industrial park.
Thank you, guys.
Next, we'll move to the Industrial Center Trail for amendment. Sam Weber with VS Engineering.
Yes, thanks, Commissioner. Sam Weber with VS. So we're working through the construction of the Muncie Industrial Center Trail. We've submitted a request for an amendment here. Number one, I hope you've had a chance to review. It basically comes in two parts. I'll try to summarize it as quick as I can. Two parts. Part A is that's the majority of the amendment. Basically, it's going to transfer funds from one phase in our land acquisition piece where there's available budget to the construction inspection phase. The reason that we need to do this is because we've encountered additional construction time. United Construction is out there working on it. But the easements that we acquired for the trail have taken several months longer than what we would have anticipated. So we've just now acquired the last easement, and United is working on some of the storm sewer and finishing up that work that was impacted by the easement. But basically what that's done is it's delayed the construction period, which causes our inspection effort to increase. So what we are requesting is to just move some available budget from the land acquisition piece, where during design we were able to save some effort and some money through some alignment changes to avoid some smaller chopped up parcels. So that resulted in about 15, saved the county from acquiring 15 additional easements. So there's some additional budget there that we'd like to shift over to the inspection piece to cover the remaining construction period. As far as an update on the trail, both bridges still need to be installed. We're in the middle of winter right now, so they're doing what they can. They've gotten back out there this week and are thinking they're going to do some more work, especially around the bridges. Now that we've just acquired the last easement, there's some storm sewer work and work that they will be working on here over the next month. And then as soon as the asphalt plants reopen in the spring, they'll be working on obviously finishing the rest of the trail paving and finishing out the project. We're expecting a final completion around May. So as we get closer, we'll provide the commission with additional updates. But that's part A, again, moving available budget from the land acquisition phase to our construction inspection to allow us to finish out the construction of the trail. Part B it includes design, land acquisition and inspection of 2 permanent signs for the industrial center. These could be brick and mortar, again, some sort of permanent announcement for the industrial center. This would be at the north and south end of Cowan Road is the tentative locations at the moment, again, on either side of the road to coincide with traffic. REA is going to be helping us with the design and aesthetics of these signs, and then VS would handle just the site design and coordination to get these constructed. We're hoping that we can get these designed and easements or land acquired so that we can get with United and add this through change order to their existing contract and construct these later on this spring. So that additional fee is $14,800 for that design, land ac and inspection of the signs there. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have, but we're requesting this amendment. Again, continue to enjoy and look forward to working with the commission on finishing out this trail project.
So this amendment is just an increase of 14,800 total, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And there's a breakdown of the different phases and additions. I think it's the last page of the proposal, if you'd like to see specific numbers.
I'll move to approve amendment number 1.
Angie, before you go further with this, just really quick on the actual amendment number 1 and part 2, the schedule. I'm
Sure.
assuming the intent is to have this project done in June of 2021 instead of June of 2020. So I'll just note the year is wrong on some of these.
Schedule.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll second the motion if you're looking for one.
Yep. We have a motion and a second. Brad, you want to call the roll?
Yes, sir. Carrie Wiggerly,
Yes.
Angie Moyer.
Yes.
I think my screen has locked up. I apologize.
We can hear you. You're just
Mhm.
frozen.
Brad, can you hear us?
I think he went to go get a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
He signed out,
Uh,
this is Mark. He signed out. I'm thinking he's going to sign back in. He was having a connection issue.
Okay, well, I'll call the roll then. We'll start all over. Angie Moyer,
Yes.
Carrie Wiggerly,
Yes.
Eugene Whited,
Yes.
Conyers,
Yes.
James King, yes. Motion carries. And that took care of both parts, correct?
I think so.
Yeah, the way I understood the motion was to approve both sections.
Okay. Well, we'll move on to the Morrison sidewalk trail update with Roger Koloski from Commonwealth.
Thank you. Let me get my screen shared here. I will. Make sure everybody can see that. Can you see the map in front of you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. I just see big zoom in front of me, so the other screen. This is just an exhibit of phase 2. I just want to go through this real quickly with you. Maybe you see my mouse from this project will construct sidewalks from east side from Oakwood Avenue along McGalliard towards Tillotson. That'll increase a lot of traffic for people who live in apartments and so on to this area. We also have a sidewalk along along Ball State's property in part of where the stadium is, and then also where their facilities, physical facilities offices are along McGalliard west of Tillotson. And then we could pass a Star Financial Bank and up towards Fox Ridge on Everbrook. And then finally go down Fox Ridge towards Chatham Lane, and then up north to Chatham Lane to the YMCA. So that's essentially what we're doing. I'll show a schedule here real quickly for you. This is where we're at right now. We're looking at getting authorization to proceed with bidding this project. So we'd be looking at advertising this project after your authorization, opening bids sometime in February, and then have time for contracts put together so that we can start actual notice to proceed sometime in March, depending on weather. That's why that's kind of blue in this map, this schedule. And then construction about five months. This is somewhat consistent. This I'll go on to the next one. Voices here, but can you see this? The budget here in front of you? Is that showing up? Okay. So based on all this, right now we're looking at a construction budget about almost just under $1.3 million for construction, adding about 5% contingencies for anything, any unforeseens. Will bring the construction itself. This is construction in the field would be just a little over $1.3 million. What I'm presenting today also is task order I sent to Brad for construction engineering, which is the administration port of construction. we've already got part of that under the previous task order we had approved for about 45. So today we're asking for another 15 on top of that for the construction engineering administration to make that whole. And the reason we did that, we had extra funds in the previous contract that weren't spent, so that we were able to start that construction engineering budget in the last go around, the last task order. This also adds $110,000 for the inspector, the resident project representative, we call them. And these numbers are pretty much consistent with based on what we saw in the phase 1A and 1B. That total construction cost was just a little over about $2.8 million in phase 1A and B, just to give you a feel for the relative difference between these two projects. So this one's about half the cost. So that one took a little over a year to do. This one should be done within about 5 months that we see. So the total construction would be right now, the added cost here would be about $1.5 million for the project. So we're asking for approval of the task orders for us to be able to go forward with construction engineering and inspection. And we've already got funds already allocated for bidding. That's already in our previous contract. So I don't know if you have any questions on that at all.
Does anybody on the board have any questions?
My
Any
question
comments?
Does the engineer estimate fit the board's approved budget for this project? Do we have enough funding?
Yeah, I talked this over with Brad. Brad, are you online?
Yes, I am. I'm back. I apologize. My connection crashed. Yes, there is appropriate funding in the capital account that was issued for the original bond to cover this. Those funds were originally, the bond was issued to pay for phase 1 and 2. So yes, there is adequate funding for the project held in an account at the auditor's office.
Good news.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? If not, Brad, can you call the roll?
Yes, we'll try this again. Bryce Conyers,
Well, hold on. We need a motion second first.
So moved.
Second.
Now, Brad, can you call the roll?
yes, sir. Bryce Conyers,
Yes.
Carrie Wiggerly,
Yes.
Angie Moyer,
Yes.
Eugene Whitehead,
Yes.
James King.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, everybody. The next thing I want to go over is we've coordinated our easement. We've got easements acquired, except for one we saw come up that we thought we had, and that was for the Fraternal Order of Police. They sold that property right before we made payment. I am not of the opinion that I don't like to record easements unless a person's paid. So that's the approach we took on these easements. And as a result, that one kind of burned us because we were ready to record that, but for whatever reason, FOP took the money without, and then after they sold the property. But nevertheless, there's about $1,150 there on that particular parcel. We'll have to acquire that again. And I'll be working with you on that for next month. That should be fairly quick though. Other easements have been acquired, and we already worked with the auditor's office on getting everything ready, and we sent the parcel numbers and so forth with them. So they're ready because we've got about 17 total parcels to be recorded. There's actually 12, but their easements themselves are about 17. So I've told the recorder's office to be ready for that. So I'll be dropping there today and tomorrow to get all those recorded. Now, in light of that, we have a couple here that I see that for easements of right-of-way for Ball State, they signed their permanent easement along the facilities building on west of Tillotson. But there's a small document here for whatever reason on a temporary easement they have. They signed it, but for whatever reason, they wanted to have one of the board members sign this as well. So we're going to need to have authorization for James, perhaps you, to sign this on behalf of the of the board here. This, let me drop back here. This may be a county issue here. Yeah. Since these are easements, this one's already signed by Ball State, but there's a place in here, a placeholder for Delaware County. So I think we need to pass this on to the county commissioners to have that signed. Joe, does that sound appropriate?
Yeah, that's fine, Roger. I can get that signed.
Okay. The same thing goes for Star Financial Bank. For some reason, unusual forms, everybody else has signed off. There's no reason to sign it, but for whatever reason, Star Financial wanted the county to sign this for whatever reason. So that's a second one we'll have to have the county sign as well. So I'd like to give that to you, Brad. Have you go ahead and pass it along to the county commissioners for signature.
Very good. Roger, I will share those both with Joe for him to put those on the next county commissioner agenda.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
And I think that's really all we have. If just as long as the board's okay to proceed with bidding the project. I don't know if you have any, we're still under COVID advisories. I know I'd like to be able to have a probably either a Zoom or a GoToMeeting type pre-bid meeting on this one. Does that sound okay with everybody to do that rather than in person?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. I know a lot of people getting vaccines, but we're still not in the woods yet. And I've done these for other projects recently, other communities. So I think that's what we'll do on our advertisement is have a pre-bid meeting online. And those will work pretty well with contractors on this. So in event, that's all I have. Just to make sure everybody's authorizing this project to move forward to bidding, and we'll be moving forward then.
Okay. I get a motion and a second so we can approve the temporary easement.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. We don't have any further discussion. Brad, can you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Carrie Wiggerly,
Yes.
James King,
Yes.
Bryce Conyers,
Yes.
Angie Moyer,
Yes.
Eugene Whitehead.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Next we have our annual Delaware County TIF report. Matt Eckerly and Laura Tiemann from Baker Tilly. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us. As mentioned, this is our annual update. You probably all recall that we prepare an annual, what we'll call a comprehensive TIF report for Delaware County and all of your tax increment allocation areas. This year's report ran north of 180 pages, but as usual, we condensed it into a presentation that Lauren is going to run through. We're going to hit the highlights, but feel free to ask any questions you may have. I know we provided Brad with the electronic and hard copies of these materials. So if you need time to review afterwards, feel free to reach out to us with any questions after the fact. But as mentioned, I'm joined today by Lauren Tiemann and Kelsey Quinn, who worked very hard to get this put together. Lauren is going to do the presentation. I'll probably add some flavor. You might notice that it looks a little dark where Lauren is. That's because at the beginning of this year, she moved out to Southern California to join her fiance, who's a Marine stationed out on the West Coast. But we're very fortunate that Lauren decided to stay on board with us, and we can still use her talents daily, and she's kind enough to join us, even at an early hour for her out in California. She's probably going to go surfing after this or something. I don't know what she's doing out there, but and before Lauren begins, and before Lauren begins, I do want to just say special thanks to Donna and Cheryl in the auditor's office. As always, they do a phenomenal job of providing us with the hard data that we need to prepare this report, and then also Brad for his efforts to make sure that we're accurately reflecting current activities in the various TIF areas. So with that, I will step back and mute myself and turn it over to Lauren.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, the sun's starting to come up here, so it's starting to get a little brighter, but I will share my screen. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
The presentation? Okay. As Matt said, if you have any questions as I go through this, feel free to stop me, or if there's topics you want to discuss, feel free to stop me as well. So Matt went through our team. The first area we have is the Morrison Road area. As you know, it was created back in 1994 and a portion has been annexed into Muncie, but you don't capture the Muncie rate. It was also expanded in 2018. This area has one bond outstanding, the 2015 bonds, that have about $4 million still outstanding on those. The Morrison Road area also provides a backup to the 2012 Bravini taxable bonds. For Morrison Road for 2021, estimated TIF is about 1.2 million. Once you pay your 2015 bonds debt service, there's about $665,000 remaining to be used on future projects. One thing also the Morrison Road area does is pass through its homestead assessed value. This is assessed value of about $21 million that gets passed through to your overlapping units, which means you lose about $527,000 of TIF. Some proposed projects you have in the area, road paving projects, and road paving projects are identified for several TIF areas throughout this presentation, so I won't keep reiterating it, but you'll see it pop up frequently. Also, the phase 2 and phase 3 of the sidewalk project that we just heard about, as well as improving an intersection at Morrison Road and Bethel Road. One piece of this presentation we're supposed to include is an impact on overlapping taxpayers. So this slide was put together to show the impact of passing through your homestead assessed value, that $21 million that I described earlier. So this slide shows what would happen if you chose not to pass through that assessed value. So we have it split up into two sections. The top section represents all the funds that are subject to the maximum levy, meaning that if AV of the overlapping units were to decrease because you no longer pass through that assessed value, it would increase the tax rate. So you can see for Hamilton Township, Muncie Sanitary, the estimated increase would be about a penny. It would go to $2.49. There are some funds that are outside the maximum levy, and those are included below in the second section here. Those, if the AV were to decrease, the levy would also decrease. So you can see the, for example, Hamilton Township cumulative fire would decrease by about $500 if AV was not passed through. And one thing to keep in mind is this doesn't account for circuit breaker changes. So an increase in taxes would potentially also impact your circuit breaker. Are there any questions on this slide? No, okay. And then we put together some graphs to show you just as a picture what TIF looks like as in terms of coverage. You can see the light blue is your estimated TIF, the dark blue is the debt service payments, and the green is all of the TIF lost through pass-through. So there is quite a bit of coverage on your bonds for other projects in this area. Next, we have the Morrison Road area number 2. As I said, this one was created in 2018. There was no bonds outstanding and there's been no growth in this area yet, so no TIF has been generated. Next, we have the Nubo Road areas versus area number 1. It was originally established in 2002, but divided into 2 areas in 2012 and further expanded in 2018. Number 1 area has 1 bond outstanding, the 2012 bonds. They have about $2 million of par outstanding on them. So for 2021, we're estimating TIF to be $175,000. Your debt service due is higher than that at $205,000. So we're estimating a shortfall of about $30,000 that will come from either company payments or TIF funds on hand. Here you can see a graph, and you can see each year we're estimating a shortfall. If TIF were to grow in the future, then that shortfall would obviously be less.
And I just want to reiterate something on this, and you'll see something similar with the Tucson areas, that these bond issues for Nubo 1 and for the Tucson areas, they have 0 county funds pledged to them beyond these TIF revenues. So to the extent that there is a shortfall, you don't have to worry about dipping into other TIF areas, county general, edit, anything like that. Those are borne 100% by the developers in this circumstance for Nubo 1, and then for Tucson by Mercix Corporation. I just wanted to clarify on that.
Thanks, Matt. Next is Nubo 2. This area does not have any bonds outstanding, so it's just generating TIF. In 2021, we're estimating TIF to be about $186,000. There was a couple parcels that had growth for 2021, so that's why it jumped up a little bit from 2020. There's several projects identified in this area, including a roundabout at Nubo Road and River Road, potential downtown Yorktown development opportunities, a Nubo Bridge over the White River, a York Prairie Creek Bridge, and also Nubo Road widening among some of the other projects. Nubo Road number 3 was created in 2018. There's no bonds in this area either, and it hasn't had any growth, so there's not any TIF generated yet. Next, we have the Park Save Lot and Park 1 areas. They were originally created with the Park 1 EDA in 2000 and split off in 2010. They had bonds outstanding, the 2000 bonds, but those matured in February of 2020, so there's no longer an obligation in this area. But this area serves as a backup to the Bravini bonds, the 2012 EDC and 2012 Redevelopment District bonds. And we'll cover those in the Bravini area portion of the presentation. For 2021, we're estimating TIF to be $343,000. And again, that will be available for Bravini debt service. Some proposed projects include the road paving projects, possible acquisition of blighted properties, and also assisting with future economic development projects. Park Tucson and New Tucson. This one again was created in 2000 and split off in 2010. It has one bond outstanding, the 2014 bonds. There's about $3.4 million of principal outstanding on these bonds that mature in 2034. In 2021, estimated TIF is about $311,000. Again, as Matt kind of referenced, there is a shortfall shown here of about $42,000, and that's payable from funds on deposit in the bond fund or company payments, nothing from the county or their other areas. So here again, you'll see a similar graph. It shows a little bit of a shortfall each year. Next, we have the Bravini areas. They have a similar creation dates as the previous slides. Just every one of these areas has different expirations depending on the pledges of them. This area, as I previously mentioned, has two bonds, the 2012 EDC bonds and the 2012 Redevelopment District bonds. These have a variety of pledges made to them. So the EDC bonds are first payable from a senior pledge of Bravini TIF, followed by a TIF from the Park 1 and Save Lot areas. If there's still debt service outstanding after those two sources are used, then Morrison Road steps in to help pay the rest. For the Redevelopment District bonds, those have a subordinate pledge of Bravini TIF. So if there's any TIF remaining after we pay the EDC bonds from Bravini, then that will pay these. Then a junior pledge of the Park 1 and Save Lot. And then if all of those sources are short, then it is secured by a special benefits tax. I don't believe that's ever been used. So all of these other pledges have been sufficient to pay the debt service. And so the next slide, we put that into numbers, since numbers are a little easier to understand, at least in my opinion. You can see that for 2021, the Bravini TIF is $174,000. When you take out the EDC bonds debt service, there's already a shortfall. So there's no Bravini TIF left to pay the 2012 district bonds. However, we identified some sources down here at the bottom that would help pay both of those shortfalls, including the Park 1 surplus and available Morrison Road TIF. And then one thing I will note is that you'll see 2021 TIF is quite a bit lower than 2020. That is because New Bravini's personal property is going away for 21. Matt, is there anything you wanted to chime in?
Well, if you want to move to the graph on the next page, Lauren, I just wanted to provide a little additional color. This is one area, we've talked quite a bit about it over time. Your 2012 redevelopment district bonds, the ones that Lauren mentioned that carry that special benefits tax backup, and the special benefits tax is a property tax that's levied on properties within the redevelopment district, which is all of the areas in Delaware County that aren't included in incorporated areas that have their own redevelopment commissions. That makes this a stronger bond issue. These bonds are callable. So this is one that we've been monitoring as a potential refinancing opportunity for the county. I know we've had some conversations with Brad about those possibilities, just trying to work through some of the unique mechanics in the Bravini area. But this is one that we might be coming back to this group later this year with some more serious discussions about refinancing those bonds. because where the rates are now, they have a coupon rate, an interest rate of about 4.9%. The bond market is much stronger now, much better for issuers. So this is one where there's a good possibility we'll be back before this board later this year to talk about a refinancing of these bonds. So I just wanted to mention that, and that would obviously change the dynamics in play in terms of needed revenues and things of that nature. So more to come on that front.
Thanks, Matt. Next, we have the I-69 area. It was created in 2008, and there's no bonds outstanding in this area, so the TIF is just available for projects of about $8,000 for 2021. Some projects you've identified in this area include the road paving projects that you've seen throughout and the improvements to State Road 332 at the Park 1 entrance. Next, we have the Magna allocation area. It was created in 2004, and there's no bonds in this area, but you do have a obligation to pay up to $400,000 per year in shell building interest payments for up to 10 years. And that began in 2014, so you only have a few years left on that obligation if the shell building doesn't get sold before then. For Magna TIF, we're estimating about $1.1 million of TIF for 2021, along with the county just received $1.4 million of CREED distributions in November of 2020, and that includes some delinquent distributions from years past. And then Magna also has the jail project commitment. If you remember, 3.5 million of TIF was contributed from Magna Industrial Center and PRL for the county's jail project. 2.5 of that has already been contributed, and the remaining balance is due at construction completion, which I believe is scheduled to be this year.
Yeah. And one thing I do want to mention on that is that these county TIF funds that have been pledged up to $3.5 million, this balance that we do of just under $1 million at construction completion, this is last money in. So to the extent that the project comes in a little under budget, I don't know where the project expenditures have been. If there are any savings, those will first be realized by reduced levels of the TIF contribution from the county, and then they can be realized elsewhere. So just wanted to make sure that it's possible you don't have to go up to the full 3.5, depending on how all the final expenditures shake out.
That's a good note. Next, we have the proposed projects in Magna, including cash funding the Muncie Industrial Center Trail Project, gateway improvements and better signage for the park, and also cleanup of the Industrial Center area. For the Industrial Center area, this one was created in 2008, and there's no bonds in this area as well. It does have the jail project that we just described, and for 2021, TIF is estimated to be just under $150,000. Some proposed projects include, again, the trail project and some road paving projects. For the Midwest Metal area, it was created in 2010. It used to have bonds outstanding, the 2012 bonds, but those were prepaid by the commission in 2019. And so for 2021, we're estimating TIF to be about $354,000. In some proposed projects, these kind of look similar to some of the previous areas, including the trail project and cleanup of the industrial center area, along with signage for the industrial center. For PRL, it was created in 2010, has one bond outstanding, the 2015 bonds. They have about a little under $2 million outstanding. And this area also has the jail project commitment that we've described. For 2021, TIF is estimated to be about $556,000. When you take out the 2015 debt service due, you have about $260,000 of TIF remaining in 2021. And you'll also estimate to get $1 million of CREED revenue from 2020. Some proposed projects in this area include the trail project again, and some environmental investigation and monitoring and cleanup of the industrial center. And then here you can see a similar graph for PRL. The green is the estimated TIF, the blue is the CREED revenues, and the red bars is the debt service payments. So you can see there is a bit of revenue available for other projects, which have been identified. Daleville Area is next. It was established in 1994 and amended in 2017. There are 3 obligations in this area: the 2015 bonds that have about $3.6 million of principal outstanding, the newly issued BOT financing for the Daleville Town Hall project that was just issued last fall, and that's payable from a pledge of Daleville TIF only. And then also the annual pledge to the Delaware County Regional Wastewater District. Looking at 2021 TIF, it's estimated to be just over $900,000. Taking out your 3 obligations, there's about $281,000 of TIF remaining in 2021. You can see some proposed projects listed here for the area, including the brownfield cleanup in the area, redevelopment of the west side of I-69, redevelopment projects for downtown, as well as cooperative projects for Daleville schools. And there are quite a few identified on here, but I won't go through reading all of them to you. Here you can see the graph of the obligations compared to the tax increment. You can see we structured the BOT financing to fill in the coverage to provide level coverage based on the estimated TIF revenues for now. Next, we have the Daleville 2 area that was just created last spring in 2020. There's no bonds outstanding yet, and this area won't start generating TIF until 2022 at the earliest. Created at the same time was the Forza area. No bonds outstanding in this area, and again, it won't have the possibility to generate TIF until next year, 2022. Next, we have the Ag Park area. It was created in 2006, and you may remember for the past couple of years for 2020 and 2021, the commission's elected to pass through all incremental AV in this area to the overlapping units, so there's no TIF generated in this area currently. Next, we have the Bell Perch area. It was created in 2009, and there's 1 bond outstanding, the 2013 bonds. There's only $200,000 of principal remaining, and those do mature in June of 23. So we are close to the maturity on those. Some other projects in this area include general infrastructure additions and a town splash pad project. On this slide, you can see we're estimating TIF to be about $66,000. Debt service due in 2021 is just a bit higher at $69,000. So there is a shortfall of about $3,400 that's technically payable from an edit pledge. However, cash on hand can be used instead of edit to make this payment. And then on the slide, you can see the couple years remaining on these bonds. You can see that we're estimating a small shortfall in 2021 and 2022. And last but not least, we have the 6928 Gaston area. This one was established in 2017. There's been no AV growth in this area yet, so TIF is still estimated to be 0. But when you start to generate TIF, some projects have already been identified, including improving infrastructure of condition, capacity, distribution of water services, as well as providing business assistance for improvements to enhance the overall climate, and also mitigating public safety and health risks in this area. So that reaches the end of our slides. If anyone has any questions, I can return to some previous slides.
Does anybody have any questions from the board? Well, Matt, yeah, Lauren, doesn't look like we have any questions. Thank you guys for doing this for us every year. It's always a good read.
Thank you. We enjoy working with all of you.
Yep. And at least we know where we're at in our TIF districts. So. Well, if we don't have anything else and there's no questions for Matt or Lauren, we can go to the payment of invoices for January and December. Does anybody have any questions over any of the invoices?
Motion to approve all invoices.
Second.
Second.
Second, no further discussion. Brad, can you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. James King,
Yes.
Bryce Conyers,
Yes.
Angie Moyer,
Yes.
Eugene Whitehead,
Yes.
Carrie Wickerly.
Yes.
Motion carried. Next, we'll move down to the bond payments. We have the Bell and 2 Bravini bond payments. Does anybody have any questions over the bond payments?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. No further discussion. Brad, can you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Bryce Conyers,
Yes.
Angie Moyer,
Yes.
Eugene Whitehead,
Yes.
Carrie Wickerly,
Yes.
James King.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Brad, anybody from the public that has showed up, or do you have any questions from anyone?
James, I'm unable to see the Facebook page due to my connection failure earlier. I'm going to yield to Mark Slusher. I know that he's on the line. Mark, could you advise, are there Facebook comments that should be addressed?
Yeah, the only one that came in from Jason Donati asked, did Exide close or is it still operating?
Exide is still operating.
That's the only comment so far.
Thank you. James, may I ask the board, since we're performing this meeting via Zoom, if they may authorize me to sign the proposals that were approved prior on behalf of the board?
If everybody's good with Brad signing, just do a motion and we'll just do the roll call.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Brad, you want to call the roll?
Yes, sir. Angie Moyer,
Yes.
Eugene Whitehead,
Yes.
Carrie Wiggerly,
Yes.
James King,
Yes.
Bryce Conyers.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I will say this, that on the Delaware County Redevelopment Commission, on our agenda, we do list the invoices, how much the invoices are, and also who we are actually paying. So if anybody had any questions, they could, Brad, they could get the agenda from you, correct? If they have any questions.
That is correct.
Because we do want to be open and transparent on our invoices and also the bond payments. So if we don't have anything else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Brad, can you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Eugene Whitehead,
Yes.
Carrie Wiggerly,
Yes.
Bryce Conyers,
Yes.
Angie Moyer,
Yes.
James King.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, and see you next month.